King. Peace, King. What's going on, Rich?
Positive energy.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, this is one of the first live session pertaining to Beyond Thought without hurt and depression. What this live is supposed to do is to give everyone an understanding, inner overstanding of the book written by Rich Lamar. Rich,
Yes.
this is a very addictive book, at least for me. The more I've read, it becomes I can't stop now. Let me go to the next page. Like, what's next? Let's let's keep going. It's like chewing on candy. Sincerely, for me, I recommend everyone go out and get this book. You can get it on Amazon. It is very powerful. It's written by a black man, therefore, it's more beautiful when you support each other, basically. That's what I have to state. Rich, how did you um
Or they can email me. I'm going to give my email probably certain part of
it's
the
your
show.
world since you brought it up. Let's go.
Or you can email me at richlamar18 at yahoo.com, and I can send you a version of where you can read it on your phone, on your cell. It's Rich Lamar, RICHLAMAR 18 at yahoo.com, and the money goes straight to PayPal if you use it or work that out. And that's where your donation goes. Or you can Google Beyond Thought by Rich Lamar, and it will take you straight to Amazon.
Um I've noticed your introduction is not really an introduction.
Mm-mm.
Um so you went to Berkeley College.
Yes, for a minute. Yes, for a
It's
spell.
a very prestigious college.
Yeah, for musicians, it's the time I went, it was like a trade school for musicians. I mean, they had other electives there, but it was
Okay.
mainly for music. It's changed a little bit now, but it's still a great school, and I went there for a spell and left to write songs and join band, which a lot of musicians did, and a lot of musicians did that musician thing.
So basically one of your accolades is actually music.
Yeah, I started out actually writing like poems, and I was always writing things down on paper, on. I used to get in trouble for writing things on the couch, on the table. I didn't have
Okay.
a journal or a diary per se, but I was always taking pieces of papers and whatever I went through, I wrote it down. But it wasn't like I just stashed it away, and I don't know for some I did it. Then when I got into music, because my brother and father were older, they was always gigging. Back then, you called a music job a gig. Now it's related to computers. But uh, when I got into music and start playing an instrument, I started writing songs with my instrument. I started using all the things I was writing and try to put uh, write songs, and I started doing that. And
Do you still do poetry now? Is there a way we can obtain some merch? Um, I know a little thing, but they don't know. So you still do write professionally, and you've written for a few occasions. Do you mind naming those occasions?
well, I had wrote a song. I mean, before I moved to Vegas, when I was still back east, like in the Berkeley days, and I wrote a song that went to New York City to record. We had some of the people that used to sing back. I'm talking like late '80s right now. So it's like some of the background people that used to sing for Frankie Valli, and that's how it was back then. We recorded in Staten Island, Manhattan, and the song I had, "Peace of Mind." It was called "Peace of Mind," and from my memoirs and stuff I was writing down because I was always like into nature and wonder why this was that and all that. So it was one of them type of songs, and then we was working on a record deal and everything. It was great, and then fast forward, I left that deal to move to Vegas to play music live, and then I started meeting a lot of celebrities because the world came to Vegas. So I went to Vegas because didn't want to travel a lot around doing music, but the world came to Vegas, so got a chance to meet a lot of people. And I don't want to name drop or anything, but it was a fun time. And then the depression and all that started after that. Uh, After the music became slow and started losing that, and everything started hitting me at once. I had gotten married in this time, and I was losing my wife. I was losing my job, and I had real bad health. I was overweight, and I was losing my mind. Everything was hitting me at once, and I fell into a deep depression and became suicidal at one point.
Okay. That's pretty tough. Um, you indicate that in the book. And you also said you dedicated the rest of your life to contributing and helping to set humanity free.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say set free, what do you mean by that?
Except because I see that freedom is is a big issue, not just a big issue, but the issue. You know, Psychologically, we're all interconnected because we all share common sense. We all have a common sense to love, observe, learn, protect, and survive. And whenever you're disturbed psychologically, you want to be free from that. I think that a lot of the cause of psychological problems, a lot of it comes from conditioning. And so when I say freedom, I'm saying freedom from uh, being conditioned. A lot of this conditioning leads us to hurt and depression, the way we're conditioned. So what I'm saying is hurt doesn't discriminate. Hurt is hurt. A lot of times when I was hurting, I thought it was just my hurt. We personalize it. Oh, it's my hurt, it's my pain. No, everybody hurts. And so I dedicated the rest of my life to help set people free from the conditioning that deceptively leads us to hurt.
Okay. You also indicated that this book is not written in a traditional format. What do you mean? What does that mean? Like, if you was telling your audience, what do you mean by it's not written in a traditional format?
Well, technically, the table of contents is it just tell you the page and the title, and I don't really go into depth of like this chapter is this. And when you go through the pages, it doesn't say chapter 4, chapter 5. It doesn't have like a list of thank yous or because all of this I just compiled from my memoirs and experiences and just categorized it. I wanted to make a book like it was a conversation with the reader and the writer.
Oh, okay, so that's why the more you read into it, the more you want to actually keep reading because it doesn't have that traditional vibes per se. Okay, I see that now. Okay. I know you've mentioned you've been depressed. You was in a state of loss. You were going through certain things. Your health wasn't 1,000, and um, you're 1,000 now. You seem very healthy. Everything, you have this glow. You got this Diddy Bop per se about you now. So,
Mm.
um, how did you notice that you were relapsing consistently on a unhealthy pace? And how did you emerge from that relapse to your former glory now?
Oh, well, um, when you back to the conditioning, we're conditioned to keep a job and keep the money going. And when you're a young musician and everything is going good, and not even just musicianship, just when you're young, you think whatever is going good is not going to end, and and you're flowing, and then you get married and you get into bigger responsibilities, and uh, it's you you start looking in the mirror when bad times happen, or things happen that would create tug of war within yourself, with bills or relationship or your career, and you start to feel yourself change, and you start to isolate yourself, start to lose energy. I was always energetic, but I started losing energy when hard times was hitting me psychologically, and I started worrying more, and you start to see your face change, and my demeanor was changing, and I was, and but I didn't really see it as depression or whatever until I started gaining weight, and the weight started to come, and I'm like, oh, this is really now my appearance is changing, and I didn't like the way I looked, and I was still in that conditioning controlling me. So, we look in the mirror, we say this is good, this is bad, we categorize things. So I started categorizing myself as looking like a loser, and And when you start thinking you're a loser and start looking at yourself, a lot of depression is when you start to compare. This person is my age and they're not going through this, and everybody's handling things but me. I'm losing it. And you start to talk to yourself, and there's a momentum that brings us out of things, and there's a momentum that brings us deeper into things. I was on that momentum that was taking my energy away. That's why I say in the book, the way to come out of depression is you have to increase positive energy. It was negative energy all around me, and I didn't help it with my thoughts. See, I call the book Beyond Thought, Living Without Hurt and Depression, because I started to see that my thoughts was giving me a momentum to stay depressed. I was in a momentum of depression with thought. And that's why I say in the book, thought hates change, because every time I wanted to change, thought would come back with something. Well, you're fat now, and this and all this other stuff, and so when I was coming out of it, I noticed that I couldn't be depressed without thought. So I start writing more memoirs. I started adjusting the memoirs I wrote before I was depressed. I was like, I was on track when I was a young man. At a very young age, we know in our hearts what we want to do, but we're conditioned out of it. So after going through that depression and coming out of it, I started to adjust my memoirs, from my experiences. Like, hey, thought is a good thing if it's in the right place. But when you're depressed, thought is in the wrong place. So I started adjusting, and that's how the book became, more refined. And when I started refining my memoirs and looking at things, it's like, hey, I can't be depressed without thought.
Okay, since you're unthought, and that's the opening of the book, right? What did you mean by thought is our memory from knowledge? Thought controls behavior, therefore, thought is a controller.
Yes. When when somebody is depressed, depression has so many definitions, and I see depressed definition as being controlled, you know, uh, and that's why I say to free. when I say to free humanity, I'm saying freedom from being controlled in every way. And thought is a controller,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't see how limited thought was until I seen how depressed I was coming now looking back on it, and so thought has its place. How can you go through the day without thought? We need thought to recall. We need thought to remember. I have to know my way back to my girlfriend's house. I have to know my way back to the studio. I have to know what to do on the job. So thought is needed. Thought is necessary. But thought in the wrong place. Oh, I'm fat. Oh, I'm not like the others. Nobody, everybody seems to be going well in their life but me. See, that's thought too.
You also stated thought is a fragment. Um, and like you just stated, it's needed, but a lot of people are unaware how thought actually controlled them. For you going through these stages, how did you determine that thought was a controller and it was actually a small fragment of the functionality of your brain, per se, from your example and experience?
Because everything that made me feel good and gave me positive energy, I mean, a real high. I mean, things that make you give a high five and jump up didn't come from my thoughts. It didn't come from me thinking. It came from me looking at the sunrise. I was always into meditation and herbs and this type of thing, but I never put it into action until I was really depressed. And I seen that timeless action has no thought at all. And that was where my energy was coming from.
Timeless action. The process before thinking, basically, like writing a stanza and it just came out of nowhere. You just hear it and minimal effort, right? That's what you mean.
Well, what I mean is, see, I grew up in a, like most black people in a Baptist church, and they say, here, go to church. This is your Jesus, and this is this. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I was always the type of young man who asked why. And I always questioned everything. So my question was, uh, when you see the seasons change, if you grew up in the East Coast, you don't see seasons where I am now. I'm in Las Vegas. You don't see seasons. But growing up in the East Coast in New York or wherever I was at that time, because I did a lot of travel, I lived in Atlanta, New York, and Boston. You see the snow melts and you start to see the butterflies and you start to see the robins. You start to see spring. And then summer comes and fall comes. And I was like, what is this about? This is not what I read in any religious book. This is not what I was taught in school. I said, these things are happening all by themselves. And it didn't talk to me till I was coming out of my depression when I was meditating.
Mm,
And those actions was timeless.
okay.
The action of nature changing from winter to spring is a timeless action. But thought put time on it.
That's profound, especially the analogy aspect of it. Um, this book also mentioned psychological conditioning, and what were some of your conditionings?
Well, grammar school, you know, looking back on it, I'm talking looking back out of my depression. And when I was coming out of my depression, I seen in writing the book and finishing the book, I was changing my memoirs and say, hey, you know what? School has its place, but I'm being conditioned to fit into society. But society is sick. Why am I being conditioned to fit into a sick place? Now, if, like I said, education has its place, but I was discovering that education has no place when it comes to seeing who you are. You can't cultivate love. You can't teach love. You can't teach, you can't talk heroin out of somebody's vein. I'm not saying I was on heroin, but you can't talk a drug out of somebody. And this what I seen as this conditioning. We're conditioned to fit in. We're being conditioned to fit in school at a very early age.
I feel like it's the pre-stages to the jails because school is actually an institution and jail is an institution as well, right? Yeah, I feel like they go hand in hand. They don't give you what you need to actual survive and maneuver within society. They give you a spec of what you need to pick a fruit from somebody else's tree. And what I mean by fruit from somebody else's tree, the place where we all go and clock in on a daily basis is somebody else's dreams. How can you be comfortable working for somebody else, building up their dreams, but shun away from yours?
Right. And that's part of the reason why I wrote the book to free people to see that. It's people working a job 30 years and never see that. That you're just an extension of somebody's idea. You're just a pair of pliers.
And we're not saying that pair applies is not useful, but
Right.
understand appliance does tighten,
Yeah.
but appliance may not fit every single thing within that car to help fix it, but it has its place, right? Therefore, it's valuable. So you have to find your value. And the only way you can do that is to look within, spend time with you. I told my friend, we all have a relationship with our friend, with ourselves before we had a relationship with somebody else. And it was like, what? What do you mean? We can't. Yeah, you do. You've been waking up every morning doing stuff for you before you've done it for somebody else. And that's just automatic. Like take time to know you, figure out what you want, figure out your desires, start believing you. The same action you put into somebody else, put it into you. Therefore, it will be easy to maneuver and aid people because you're already secure within you. And I notice security is another thing the book speaks about.
Yeah.
Condition is like, man, the word I wanted to use, I don't want to use.
Yeah.
Condition is pretty much uh dag this world pedophile. That's the
Mm.
word. I keep hearing it, and it's like I wouldn't want to switch. And it's like a pedophile, right? In your dreams as a virgin, it's premature, and this pedophile is preying on that. It's a metaphor per se, so please don't give me hell. I know y'all only hear certain things and it's triggers for you guys, but if your dream is premature and it's not coming into its own, you have to develop that, right?
Yeah. But the book is about looking at life deeply, looking at yourself deeply, because we go through deep problems in life, especially as we're growing up. You know, as we're growing up, I you know, I'm very careful with words. I try to be because not, and that's another one. See, try. This is all this conditioning. You have to be careful with words because in the book I say words are never the actual person, place, action, or thing.
And
Yeah,
that's
what
why
I
I was, I'm
yeah
sorry, that's why I was trying to not say that word per se, but it's like, like you said, like, yo, use that. I'm not gonna give you no other word right now. Use that one, whatever. But go ahead. I understand what you're saying.
yeah because we're conditioned from a very early age. Let me say this: at a very early age, if you watch kids will show you what being a human is. Kids will show you what being alive is. They question everything. Their perception is honest. They don't lie to you. Adults lie all day long. A kid is open and perception is there. I'm not saying they don't need an adult, but when they get to the age where their heart is growing and they're evolving with the universe that brought them here, we snatch them and put them in this school. We put them in this institution. Say that's good, that's bad. Boys in blue, girls in pink. You know. So now we're losing. In the book, I say life is about relationships. We have a relationship with our education, with our wives, with our jobs, with our careers. We have a relationship with our pets. We have a relationship. You know, the most important relationship is with ourselves. So how can I have a relationship with myself if you throw me in this institution and give me all these must and must nots? So I didn't know I was getting set up for depression all my life. I'm not saying it's because of school and it's because of learning the way school said. I'm saying that you have to be very careful with everybody's an individual. You know, that you have to be very careful in lying. You have to be very careful with people because some people, I know some people who I grew up with to this day still haven't gotten over the fact that Santa Claus is not real.
What?
Yes,
They can't get over that.
they can't. I mean, they tell me to this day. It took me years to get over that. I'm like, it was no big deal to me. But
Wow.
when I was writing this book, I could see it. I say like, okay, what they're really doing in this society, they feeding us illusions.
It,
You know,
it's with those illusions too that I actually stray away from the Bible. Um, but by just witnessing the birth of my child. You know how they say, "Oh, he took a rib from you and gave it to the woman," and blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't think that he was talking about our species per se, because within the fifth day, he said, "Let us create man in our own image," and I'm like, okay, if I want to create a man, all I have to do is go, have a discussion with my wife, and we become one. Once we're, you know, and that's what it is, to see the birth of my son change my trajectory of thinking, like, yo, this was a lie the whole time.
right?
And I was like, yo, all of this is parables. So I started questioning a lot of things, man. Questioning a lot of things. Mommy never liked it. My mom ain't like it. She ain't like me being awake and basically like bringing forth these questions because she was a Christian. So
Right,
it was
right.
it was issues, you know, and I've gotten so many demons put in me, got called the demon so many times,
Oh
and
yeah,
and
man.
so on and so forth. Then I turned and I asked him, like, so if you believe in the man upstairs, right? Don't you think the man upstairs was the one that made me the way I am to question certain things? No, the man that this that and the third leans on his own understanding and he fall on his sword and blah blah blah. I'm like,
Right.
what? And I started tearing that book apart, like, and then hit it with questions like, was it understanding that when he was destroying the city and he told the man to tell his wife not to look around, and she looked around and he kept looking straight? Was that, what I mean? I was like, what do you say about that? Was that falling on your own understanding? Or it's called free will? We went down the rabbit hole and she stopped talking to me about this. But yeah, I understand exactly what you're stating in the points. I feel like you have a lot of gems in this book that not just men, but women also.
Oh yeah, because the book is um for positive energy, which I just say human beings so it can relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say God, or I just use it as a reference so people know what I'm talking about. But we are living energy, okay? And uh, for the sake of people listening, I don't want them to think that this is a book of a direction, a book of the must and the must nots, a book to say, look at this, I have the truth. No, it's not that book. My book is merely something that's saying, hey, look at this. It's like being in a great art gallery and we're looking at a bunch of great paintings. And my book is like, I'm just telling you, say, hey, look at this one. Have you ever looked at life like this? It freed me and it will free you because I am you. We are the world. We are the world. The world thinks like me and doubts like me and hurts like me and gets discouraged like me and gets upset like me. I am all of that. I am good, bad, and ugly. This is what the book is about, going in depth of what people know is going beyond the surface. And I'm saying if you don't have to be depressed because I was suicidal in a bad situation. But I discovered that I was very sane, but in an insane situation. And this is what society does to people. It's like if you lined up a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, you can't say that's the plumber, that's the painter, that's the prostitute, that's the engineer. You can't say that. But the personality of a child shows early and it's free and it's great. I'm not talking about in terms of birth defects or anything like that, but any normal child coming up is there's no prejudice, there's no we learn all of this crazy stuff in conditioning. But going through the conditioning of society, that engineer may turn into a prostitute.
Mm-hmm. I want to touch base on something that you also said, why we must not get confused by the yin and the yang, or the condition of pleasure and fear, by any means necessary for order to exist. What do you mean by that?
Um, that can get very complex, but
We want you to get complex. That's your natural state. Like,
so we go into this. We got to put your scuba gear on. You got your
I'm
goggles and your flippers.
and
We
that's
we
the
about
thing. People keep telling me I need to simplify things, but sometimes we need to decode things. And within that decoding, we end up finding ourselves like nobody want to do the work anymore. Everybody just wanted to be handed on a silver platter, and like, like you want the house already built. You want me to put everything together for you versus you doing it yourself. If I'm doing it for you, how you learning? And I'm gonna leave with that so you can answer the question.
yeah. I mean, it's I'm gonna go into it like this. When I was meditating, I still
Mhm.
meditate, but writing the book and coming out of my turmoil and adjusting my memoirs and looking at life, th- what I learned in school didn't save my life. What I Not that what I learned at school wasn't important, but that's what I mean by superficial things cannot solve something that's deep going inside of you. School has its place, thought has its place, but it has no place when it comes to you unfolding yourself, seeing who you really are. And people say, well, I say in meditation, if I was going through things that's timeless, like if you watch nature, the reason why I can say this is thought and this is an illusion and this is not is because the action of nature, and bear with me on this is very important. The action of nature doesn't come from the thought of man. The action of the sun and the stars and the universe does not come from the thought of man or animals. um, the action of nature is timeless,
What do you
but
mean?
but now that timelessness is what eliminated my depression. So how can something timeless eliminate my depression? Because my depression was based on time, and thought is a controller. So the book is called Beyond Thought: Living Without Hurt and Depression, meaning that thought is a controller. It will keep you depressed with bad thoughts. But thought is also limited. But thought thinks it can take you out of a depression. So thought will create things like religion, tradition, yin and yang, processes, methods, systems. See, thought creates things because thought thinks it's not limited. And thought is a controller. So thought will try to control your depression, thinking it helps you, but it's not. So we'll be depressed and be like, you know what, I just need to get up and go out of here and go to the club and do this. And then I just need to go to church and get rid of all of this. And then Monday morning, you still got the same problem, you know? And uh, see, that's thought. Thought will say, well, just let me go to Paris. Let me go to Venice. Let me go to Madrid. Let me travel. That's why depression doesn't discriminate. The person in the ghetto says, well, let me just go to the club. The person that's wealthy say, let me fly to Paris. It's the same thing, but just one has money and one doesn't. So we create a yin and a yang. Oh, there's no good without evil. There's no sadness without hurt. I mean, there's no sadness without happiness. No, there's only positive energy. But thought,
Versus,
there's only positive energy. Whatever negates that energy is something negative. But thought creates things to try to justify the negative, like yin and yang, traditions, religions, books, and all that has its place, but it has no place in you eliminating something permanently. Something, I mean, it polishes here and there, but it doesn't. It's like changing your sheet without taking the sheet off, like just putting another sheet over it.
so there's layers.
When something is clear, you don't need a yin and a yang. When something is clear, you don't seek. When something is clear, there's no process. That's what enlightenment is, what eliminated my depression. If you say there's a process to enlightenment, it's not enlightenment.
Got you. So to put a stock on something, to put condition on something is to actually eliminate its actual true purpose. Because if you're rolling within pure positive energy, there's nothing to combat that. So it's just straight balance.
That's why I didn't see some flaws in these religious books until I seen enlightenment. Until I seen enlightenment. Enlightenment is order. It's a moving thing. It's never static. So you can't say I was enlightened. Enlightenment is a continual thing. It's like when something is moving, like I don't care what happens to anybody, time. I can put time into this just so people can understand it more. Chronology, time moves on. Let's say time moves on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But time, no matter what happens to you, doesn't rewind for you.
Mm-mm.
Time doesn't stop for you. Time doesn't wait for you to get smart. Time doesn't wait for you to figure it out. But enlightenment is timeless. When it happens, there's no process, there's no yin and yang, there's no formula, it happens. But it happened to me when I was clear from my conditioning. When I was clear, see, when you're clear, you don't seek anything. When you're peaceful and you're healthy, are you looking for a hospital?
That's rhetorical. I'm not gonna answer that rhetorical
But I'm just saying.
question.
I'm
Oh, it's a
just
question to
no,
me.
no, no. I'm just I'm trying to illustrate
I know
when
what you're
something.
saying. I'm just messing
Yeah.
with you, man. You don't need a hospital.
No, but my point is when you're clear, when something is clear, when something is clear, if I'm in order, I don't need to look at formulas. I'm only now listen. Formulas and systems and yin and yang has its place. It polishes here and there, but only when you're on a path. See, if I'm trying to be a great musician, I need to practice. I
Hmm.
need that. If I need to learn what to do on the job, I need a path. When I need to learn how to do something, I need a path. But in terms of ending my depression for good, there's no path. There's no path to the truth. There's not a fixed point.
So therefore, time become unlimited. Um,
No, no, time is limited because time comes from thought.
no, 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 no. I get what you're saying, but for those to understand, is like, okay, yes, time is limited, but what I'm saying is when you're on this positive bliss, when you're one with source, right? You're not second guessing anything. The conditions is no longer with you and you're flowing. It's an abundance. It's unlimited. That's what I'm saying. It flows
Yes.
forever. You're the flow versus trying to mesh with the flow. It's kind of like the knowing versus the truth. I know what it is.
Well, in a sense, but it's like a running river. A running river is a nourishing river because it's never static. Static water is what's dangerous in terms of nourishment. Enlightenment is a moving thing. You can't say I was enlightened and now I'm not. Because it's always moving.
And that's why I laugh at people that says they're woke. And I'm like, in order to be woke, you had to be dead, right? Or asleep. So yeah, I I don't understand that terminology, but
But that's why we have to be careful with words. See,
you know,
you have to be careful with words because see to get out of depression, to get out another way to eliminate depression is to eliminate the complication. That's why I say look at it as learning and not a mistake. We say, well, I don't want to make mistakes. I made that mistake. But if you look at the action of something that sets you back, so to speak, don't say it's a mistake because now you have to battle the action, the unfortunate action that happened, and this word mistake.
I look at it as a lesson. I don't look at it as a loss. I don't look at it as it's something that's added to my experience pretty much. And
Well,
go
yes,
ahead. Go ahead.
but the book goes in depth of words and to you know look at something without naming it. The next time you get upset, the next time you go on a tantrum, or the next time you feel happy, look at yourself or look at someone else and don't name it and just look at it.
So
Don't,
eliminate the judgment out of everything, pretty much.
the name is a label for judgment, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But but I'm showing people in the book when I got out of this suicidal state and this 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 lack of freedom. I was looking at nature. I was looking at how nature moves and how in my heart is connected to that. But society separates us from our relationship with nature.
Because we're always racing to go somewhere, Rich.
Yeah.
And when you race, and I tell my sons this, when you're racing to be first, you never stop to pay attention to nothing around you. You can have this profound healing fountain right next to your house, but you will never see it because you're always racing until you stop to pay attention around you and what's going on, it's gonna be like, oh, eureka. We race to work, we race to eat, we race to make money, we race against each other. Like it's a continuous battle.
Yes. Why? Why though?
I have
You,
no idea. We even race past the mirror. We don't stop to look at ourselves to
but
see how unique we are.
my book is about why we do this. And you can't say that the man that's in Tanzania, we're, when I speak publicly, they say, "What? Well, I'm from Germany, and people from Germany are different." I said, "No, we're all interconnected in terms of depression. We all get hurt. Hurt doesn't discriminate." And he was like, "How so?" I'm like, "Look, we're all born with a common sense to love, observe, learn, protect, and survive. Look, if you go over Jermaine's house and you grab his son and slap him, Jermaine is going to, common sense and protection and going to come into play. It's going to be a problem. If I slap your son in Germany, it's going to be the same action. Now, if you say you're a German and that, see, that's why I don't get into words too deep. I get into the action of what is life showing me and telling me. Common sense is one of the best things we need to look at because the German father will react the same way as a father in Bed-Stuy or Brooklyn. If you grab his son the wrong way, the father's going to react the same way the father reacts to Germany. He's going to try to protect the son and put you in check. So that's what my book is about. Eliminate all of this thing, all this complication that we deal with. That's how the universe and nature brought my sanity, showing me sanity because it took out all the complication and says, okay, the sun is not rising, the earth is actually turning. But you see how with words, it's kids that the sun is actually moving up. So you have to look at this deeply. If you look at life deeply, you'll never be depressed. The superficial things is what gets us in trouble.
But you got some people talk about I'm a realist, right? And a realist doesn't go deep. They look at stuff on a surface level because they don't think about the the dreams that were inward before they were actually displayed in reality. They just believe what their eyes have shown them and continue to show them. But like you're saying, until we see the deep, we're not going to understand or overstand what life is really about.
Yes, you have to. And but it's not like something that somebody has to be smarter than the other one. No, it's just a matter of looking, paying attention to what your heart is saying. There's no such thing as a person smarter than the other one. They both have brain. Now, if somebody had two brains and four legs, I would differ that. But it's a, it's just a matter of conditioning or how you see things.
Yeah, like if I fail to know something that you do, I ask you for your source because ignorance is a lack of information. And if I know your source and I can go and read your source, I can get that same information. But what you're saying, regardless of the source, experience is more profound to us, right?
Well, if you're like again words, you got to be careful with experience because thought comes from experience.
No, no, no. Your form of okay. Let me clear that up. You went to depression, right? Um, no depression is the same. The awakening you had, right? I will never have that awakening, and that's what I meant by that when I mentioned experience.
I see, I see. But look at this, Jermaine. The cause of depression might not be the same, but hurt is hurt. Bl-
Hmm.
A blind person don't say, "Well, I'm not blind like him."
Oh, okay. Okay.
The same thing that will. This is why it's about freedom. You must be. You know, our perception is so managed. Commercials, magazines, school, TV, environment, uh, diet, uh, all day long they try to manage your perception. You drive along, you see billboards. Oh, stop here, eat here. This is the best food, the best restaurant voted for the last 3 years. This that who has time? Who has time or space to meditate?
Nobody, because even in your workplace, you don't get enough sun.
And they make
'Cause-
sure you're busy. They make
yeah,
sure you're busy.
yeah. So tired as soon as you get home, you want to sleep. And once you go to sleep, you
Yeah.
don't even spend time with your children or give your wife the just due that she deserves. You just go to tired. You might not even eat. And then you wake up and still tired.
Mhm.
You're still tired and go do the same thing again and add on to your tiredness. And like yeah,
And it's by design.
absolutely. Because a man that stops and resonates with himself is a dangerous man.
Yeah.
Imagine one turn into two and two go into the thousands and the thousands go into the millions of so-called blacks resonating on the same frequency, maneuvering the same way. What you think will happen to society? It will crumble.
Yes. And society is us. That's why in the book I say society is not a bad thing. It's just all we need to do is take the self centeredness out of it. Because life is social. That's a good thing. But society is uh, is sick. Why is society sick? Because of self interest. Not the self interest that's healthy, the self interest that says, you're in my way. I got to
Hmm.
get mine. I got to get mine. I can't. But nature, there's enough here for everybody. We're conditioned that it's not. There was no homeless people before a monetary system.
You're gonna get it now, man. Hey, what is he? What you talking about, Willis?
I want them to get mad because that's going to make them think deeply. I want you to get mad at me because all I want you to do, my book is not how to live. My book is not telling you, look what I know and you don't know. My book is saying, look at this. My book wants you to think and to go beyond thought. If you get mad, you still went, you still had to go deep to get mad at me because the answer, the revolution is inward, not outward.
It will not be televised. You keep setting me up for that.
Not be on Facebook.
I keep setting me up for saying that.
It would not be in Jermaine's lie.
It would be an implosion within. We just gotta understand that self love is 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 needed. It has its place, right? Now I'm talking like you. Um Oh man, you can tell who a man studies, man. He started taking on that other person.
Hey,
Hey,
no, well, you're just referring to the book. Well, you have to be careful with that self word. That's why in the book I refer to the inner self as the inner being. I say self so people can relate to what I'm saying, but I refer to the inner being as the you.
I would not be a good host if I actually don't set you up to answer these questions. That
That
that's why this is so organic. Like
that's why we're here, right?
absolutely. Um A lot of people would love to know. I know you've told me so many times. How did you defeat your form of depression? I know you mentioned staring at the sun. What else did you do?
Okay, again, Jermaine, the word. Now, in my book, I go through this word how. See, whenever you say how, you have to bring up the past. It it brings up thought. It brings up dependency. That word how you is no learning in how, because once you ask how, learning stops because you become dependent on the source that's telling you how. See, this is what the book is about, going deeply into the conditioning from words to actions to thoughts. So when you're depressed, people go to a psychiatrist and ask how, and it doesn't cure the depression. It polishes here and there, but it doesn't eliminate. It's
So
like
what's the
taking
proper word? What
the
word would you use if you're telling me the how is not what I need to utilize? How would have you how
I know what you mean. How in the
yeah.
how in the sense of,
Hmm.
well, you should use it like in the sense of action. What it I would say, what action did you take?
So replace that with action. Got you. Got you. Got you.
Because there is an action that leads to healing, that not leads, it's an action that heals. See?
Hmm.
There's an action that clears. There's an action that's nourishing. See, there's an action. See, action is energy. Action is life. Death is the end of action. Now, non action can be just as productive as action. So, in this action of healing, you are learning when and when not to. That is when you're healing and eliminating depression. You're in the action of something that is timeless. I'm looking at the sunrise and I start to see and feel the earth actually turning. It's eliminating the illusion of the sun rising. I'm seeing the sun being exposed. And in that is meditation because there is no formula, there is no system. I'm not reading no steps how to meditate. I'm actually one with this movement. And this is, there's no conditioning controlling this relationship. And so the depression that was controlling me is no longer controlling me. So when there's no more when there's no more controller, depression ends. When
Hmm.
Because depression is being controlled. I'm being controlled. I'm attached. I'm addicted. I'm corrupt. If I'm chained to a post, Jermaine, the chain and the post is a controller. I can only go a certain distance. I'm being conditioned to stay here. My energy is being drained. I'm discouraged. But soon as that chain is taken off, soon as the controller is no longer in control, I'm free. But I can't see this until my mind and my conditioning is clear. I can't, you can't get rid of depression based on a condition or a how, because freedom has no fixed point. So you can't say take this road. You have to be touched. The only way you can be touched is to have a clear mind. Fortunately, my mind was clear and the universe was able to touch me without interference. That's why when people say I was meditating, I had my fingers like this, I was chanting this. See, that involves how. That involves how. I'm not saying that that's not good. I'm just saying it wasn't the thing that eliminated my depression. What eliminated my depression was the meditation that I was doing cleared my mind. There was no how, there was no thought, there was no system. It was just me being one with the movement of nature. And we do this at a very young age, but we're conditioned out of it. What are you looking at? Get to church. What are you doing there? Do your homework. You know, it's a very deep thing. And anybody who ever created anything or painted a picture or created music, if you come into a state to where the mind is clear and you be like, man, where's this coming from? Right?
Absolutely.
That's what eliminated my depression. It was like writing a song. And you talk to the best songwriters, the best songs came, they may have dreamed it. It just came. But it can only come when you're free from conditioning. I mean, conditioning has its place. I can dream a song, I can write a song, and thought has its place. I can refine it with thought. I can polish it with thought. But when the mind is clear, it does extraordinary things because you're one with the universe. That's why a great painter may sit and look at a tree in Central Park for a month, and then he will paint that tree without even looking at that tree in his apartment. This is the action that heals. This is the action that's nourishing. What action is this I'm talking about? It's the action of pure observation, correct attention. A painter will look at a tree and sit there, or look at a mountain, or look at a waterfall, and he will paint that waterfall flawlessly after looking at it because his attention and observation is correct. There's no interference. There's no process. There's no formula. He's becoming the waterfall. And when he paints it, he is the waterfall. But how can somebody see this when they're conditioned on superficiality all their life? When you say, when the baby's crying, you say, shut up, and you don't even go see what's wrong with it. How can I know my child if I don't go see what's wrong, if I don't look at it, give correct attention?
Story of my life.
And hey, do what I said do. Well, what about, oh,
Because I said
yeah,
do it.
because I
I'm your
said,
parents.
have your parents say
I
do it.
gave you life.
Is there a Bible in there? Is there a Quran in there? Is there a religious? Did you go to Catholic school today?
You know, it's funny. I was raised in a Catholic church, and I went to that school for a short period of time. And I remember getting baptized without asking for baptism.
Boom, bingo. Isn't that what you call tyranny?
Oh man, yeah. It was crazy in my school uniform and everything. That just triggered me. You just brought that memory back. Oh man, this world is beautiful, man. People within it is sick. I swear. I had to love them though, because without them, I wouldn't be me.
We need each other. Life is social. We need each other.
I don't know when we're gonna figure that out. Sometimes we tend to have a eureka moment when it's too late.
Well,
But
we've already figured it out, Jermaine. We've already figured it out. This is what the book go in depth about. Because look, I'm not saying anything that anybody already knows. Any philosopher, any person that's in touch with himself, any artist will tell you that the timeless, the timelessness of life is the nourishment of life. Truth is not a fixed point. There's no path to enlightenment. If there was a path to enlightenment, we all be there. But I don't know anything more than the other man. I just started looking at nature and got rid of my conditioning. I'm just if I'm helping somebody with what I'm saying, I am not smarter than you. I'm just reminding you of what you forgot, what you was taken away from an early age. This is why you can't do it superficially. If my father passes away or somebody close to me, you have to look at this deeply to get over it so you won't grieve yourself to death. If the Some people take death very hard. You can buy me a car, you can buy me a house. See, superficial things is not going to end something that's deep. It's not going to cure or eliminate something that's deep. If a person that's close to me is gone, you can buy me a car and a house. It's not gonna stop anything. It's not gonna eliminate my hurt and depression. It's the same thing as going out to the club and yelling in church. But you got the same problem Monday morning.
Like you keep saying they got the same problem Monday morning. Like a lot of them don't believe that. They don't believe they got the same problem. They feel like solving an issue brings forth another issue. It's kind of like cleaning out your closet. If you clean out your closet, you don't have to clean it out again. So that terminology is asinine to me.
It's conditioning, Jermaine. We got to be very careful with words because the words control us. And we let these words control us, and we're like, and some of people don't even know what they mean. I talk to Christians. When I talk publicly, there's Christians, Muslims, the Jewish people. There's all kind of people, and I talk for 20 minutes and I let them ask questions because I don't. I want everybody to, because I always say, question everything, question me. And so the Jewish people say, well, the Jewish guy, I won't say Jewish people, but a Jewish guy asked me, well, what do black people want? You're free, and you can go to school, you can have education now, and you got Black History Month, and you have all these things, and I told him, I said, what do you want for your kids? He was like, well, I want my kid educated. I want my kid to have nice things. I said, we want the same thing too. See,
Aha.
I eliminate the complication.
Aha. um, and it's not deep. It's wanting to it's wanting change. Is knowing that there's something incorrect with your source energy and wanting to clean it per se. And through curiosity comes change. But we first have to make the effort, action, like you said. And change incrementally versus wanting to do it in one whop. Because out of everything that you've indicated and stated so far to me, that's what I identify with the most. You know, superficial is trying to do it overnight. Superficial is using poison to eliminate your actions of doing it.
Well,
So
yeah,
go
yeah.
ahead. You had something you wanted to say?
No, you're right there, Jermaine. But I want you to look at it like this because you're right there. Superficialness is looking at something incorrectly. The action of looking at something incorrectly is superficialness. Correct attention Eliminate superficialness and depression. Correct attention is being secure, but we're conditioned that security is education, security is money. The economy could crash tomorrow. That's not security. We're conditioned that military is security. Military is not security because they can drop a bomb and wipe us out at any moment. So that's not security. So being secure is the action of seeing correctly, not from your two eyes, but from that inward eye, your heart. People have a heart that's always speaking and showing you order. That's why the first know the difference between the voice of your heart and the voice of thought.
How? How do you know the difference?
Usually the voice of a heart is first. Hey, I'm going to go over there. Then thought comes in. "Ah, I better not, 'cause last time I remember so and so went over there. Then it's over.
Oh, so that's how we end up second guessing ourselves, pretty much.
Well, they say I shouldn't have a second thought. You hear that, right?
Yeah, so that's how we second guess ourselves.
Well, I'm not saying that in every case. I'm not going to paint everything with
I
that same
mean,
brush. I'm just saying,
you don't have to paint it. I'm painting
yeah.
it because if your heart comes first and your ego, whatever, your mind comes after, that's pretty much what it is. I'm painting that picture.
Yes, yes, it is. But I
It's
want,
go ahead.
but Jermaine, see, you're so deep, you can see this. But the people that's listening that might not get this, first of all, your heart must be in the right place first. See, if your heart is filled with vanity and your heart is filled with ego, the first all the voices is from thought, from self-centered thought. But if your heart is in the right place, the first feeling, the first uh the first vibration is from the heart. The heart is connected to the universe and nature. This is why the universe, the heart, and nature is the only three things in your entire life that will never lie to you. Nature doesn't lie to you. Your inner being or your body doesn't lie to you. When you have to urinate, it's not lying to you.
You can either stand there and piss on yourself. It's a lie.
Thank you.
The truth is gonna be, oh, I just pissed on myself. I'm just saying, like, yeah. Oh man.
So I'm saying when you're in touch with nature and the universe and your heart, the first the first vibration is always correct.
Hmm.
The second one is thought.
Okay, got you.
But how many times have we outthought ourselves and out talked ourselves out of something?
I've done that plenty of times, but sometimes the willingness of yourself won't allow you to talk yourself out of that. So you might have, no, I don't think I should. Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should. And you eventually doing it anyway. And everything that you've actually thought about being wrong with that was a lie. That's how I know the ego lies to you. Like it will boost you up to believe things is one way when in actuality it's the other way. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've experienced that.
The ego is thought,
Yeah.
but your heart, if your heart is in the right place, see, your heart is always keeping order. Your heart is always speaking, keeping order. Thought is a controller. Thought is always thinking, trying to control. And so I'm saying, this is what the book is saying. The book goes into that in a portion. But what I'm saying is your relationship with nature. We've come through our parents. We come from nature. Your relationship with nature is timeless. Your relationship with the sun, moon, stars, and nature and the movement of nature is something sacred. It's something completely sacred. We feel this is where you get that feeling like, hey, I shouldn't have done that. I need to go back and apologize. That's what the heart does.
Got you. Got you. Got you. Got you. Um, I would love for you to tell them again where they could find your book. Um, what's the value of the book?
The book, go on Amazon and you can Google Beyond Thought by Rich Lamar on Amazon. It's a $20 book, and or you can email me at richlamar18 at Yahoo, RICHLAMAR 18 at yahoo.com. The book is $10 if you email me and I email it to you, and you'll be able to read it on your phone, computer, and travel with it that way. I'm working on an audio version, but Jermaine is helping me with that right now. This is this is only the first part, but again, everybody, again, the reason why I'm talking like this is because I want people to look at this deeply. Not that people don't look at life deeply. My book is not a must and must not. My book is not a religion. It's not a cult. It's not to discourage or to, it doesn't attack religion. I'm just saying, hey, look at this.
The second of part two of the other live pretty much is gonna be him narrating the book in his own voice to give y'all a little tidbit, little pieces, a snippet per se of what to actually expect. I recommend this book. I owned it. He didn't send it to me as a gift. I actually went out as a form of supporting somebody that reflects me, and I purchased it. And I'm going to purchase a few more to give as gift to those I actually love and endure.
I appreciate that, brother. And and like I said, this is, and I say this publicly, and I don't want to, because I want people to really get it. It's not a religion. It's not a cult. It's not a, this is how you should live. It's just, I'm saying, look at this. Look at what you've been conditioned away from. Because I'm not saying anything that everybody already knows. It's just something that you may forgot, being so busy in life.
Let me sum it up for you guys. It's a guide for you to do the work that you need to do for self. First, understand that there is a sickness, and understanding that brings forth the correction. So if you know there's a sickness, you're going to want to take steps to actually make the correction. And pretty much that's what it is. You know, don't go idolize the book. I'm just bullshitting. Do whatever y'all want to do. If
Well,
it if you want to soak it in and live your life 100 miles an hour on this book, you can, because it's not telling you nothing unbalanced. It's actually aiding you. It's a mirror reflecting your image, and that's what I get from it, at least.
I appreciate that, Jermaine. And everybody that's listening that's interested in the book, it's a short read, and I'm but I wrote it to be a conversation between the reader and the writer. I want you to pause. I want you to look. I just want you to look. I just see, we're so busy in life. This is why I'm so appreciative of Jermaine. I'm so appreciative of whoever's listening, because everybody has something to do, and to take their precious moments to share with this and to buy my book. My book is not say look at it like this, do it like this. My book is totally against that. That's how we get lost. My book is saying, look at you. The there's no such thing as problems and all of these things is only solutions. But look at you, and inside is all of those solutions. Read the book of you. That's all my book is saying. You have there's a relationship with you, the universe, and nature, and it all fits in. And it all fits in. Read the book of you. That's the most important relationship is you.
And for anybody that's, especially men, that needs an outlet, um, on Facebook, you can join the group MEN-talRollaDeK. On YouTube, you can subscribe to MEN-talRollaDeK for organic live videos about society and day to day life. The process going forward is to help not only my brothers, but my sisters as well, if they desire to be that um, unbalanced within self. So just know, if you throw your negative comments out there, they're welcome as well. All information to me is information. I change the trajectory of whatever that information is. So, with that being said, Rich, please, like we always do, summarize.
Well, again, I say looking deeply in yourself. I say the self so you know what I'm talking about, but what I actually mean is your inner being, which is your heart, not your physical heart, which is a heart that pumps and I hope is healthy, but the heart of you, the inner being of you that's connected with the universe and nature. Positive energy is you. Positive energy is in you. Stay away from energy drainers.
Vampire. I got sunlight for y'all vampires. I'm sorry, Rich. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rich.
I mean, when I say that heart is first, watch your heart. Don't let these crazy things in your heart, the negative energy. That's what. Stay away from energy drainers because your heart becomes a gossip heart. If your heart is have gossip in it, then you're a gossiper. You can, you know, you watch your heart. Have the universe in your heart. Let your heart stay clear. Let your heart tell you what it is. See, thought, nature doesn't need our thought. Nature, the earth extricates itself from conflict all by itself. This earth will go on with or without us. The earth doesn't need our thought. Your heart doesn't need your thought. Your heart is connected to earth and the universe. Get in touch with that. That's what I mean by read the book of you. And you know what your heart is saying. And that's why I love this platform because it's hard for people to open up because society is conditions us to be so tough and introverted.
Hard at 6 o'clock in the morning, man. Like, what you talking about? What? What kind of question? I love asking the questions, and they act like they didn't hear what I just said, and they be like, I love hearing the stutters, and then they run from it. I'm like, okay. Guess what? You're gonna have that conversation when you locked away in your room later on.
And that's all I say. Pay more attention to your relationship with nature and the universe. As we go on these, that's gonna the book goes into it more deeply, but I'll end it like this. Just like there's somebody out there that's going through major change in their life. When you need big decisions, you need big guidance when it comes to the society and the world of career. When you need to eliminate depression, you can't eliminate it superficially. When you have deep psychological problems, you have to go in deep to solve it. And this is what I'm talking about, and this is what the book is about.
I want to say gratitude, King, and for everyone that's actually listening and about to watch later, gratitude as well. Um, you can follow the group once more, Mental Roller Deck on Facebook, and you can follow me on YouTube at Mental Roller Deck. Um, for all of you that desire change, first step, go hug a tree. Peace and love. Go hug a
Thanks, brother.
tree.
Hey, the tree